back to Jet Lag, the podcast all about TCKs and what it's like to grow up overseas. I'm your host, Noah, and today I'm joined by co-host Elizabeth and Addie.
Today we will be discussing a question inspired by a listener. How do you say good goodbyes and how do you stay in touch?
Okay, so let's start off with a general question. How do you say a good goodbye?
I think one thing that's been important for me is if it's on your own terms or not, which I know is not always in your control. But when we left China, it was very sudden, and I didn't have the chance to say goodbye to a lot of my friends, if any of them. As compared to when we left Thailand, it was on our own terms. So I had friends driving with me to the airport, and we were prepared for it.
I remember the day before y'all left China, or suddenly left China. It was on a community day for school, and I remember Elizabeth and I were in the same class, and we were wondering why all the moms were crying and bursting out into tears.
Yes.
Now that I look back, it's kind of funny now that I look back on it, but it wasn't in the moment, not at all, and not really will it ever be. But it was not on anyone's own terms because that was a lot. I didn't see y'all for another 2-3 years, and I didn't get to say goodbye at all. And I know y'all didn't get to say goodbye either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was really hard, not getting to say goodbye to any of our best friends or teachers or whatever.
Yeah.
Something that makes goodbyes easier for me, if not better, I'm not sure if it makes it better, but it makes it easier, is knowing when you'll see them again. So whether that's in 2 months after home assignment or a few years when you're visiting, as long as you just have it in your mind, I will be seeing this person again, and this is not the end.
I remember when we were going on vacation from China to Thailand for a little bit, and that's it's kind of when COVID broke out. So in China we were in Thailand. We kept on wanting to go back in, but we never could, and I think that was probably one of the hardest goodbyes I had to say to my friend, because I kept on telling him, I'm going to see you in a couple weeks. No, I'm going to see you in a couple months. We'll hopefully be back in 3 months. But it was never like that. It was we would say, oh, I'll see each other soon. And then it would keep on getting delayed because COVID happened and the government wouldn't let us in. And then I didn't see him for another 3 years. And it was a really awesome but strange thing when we actually got to see each other again. Yeah.
Having closure is helpful for that kind of thing. Knowing at this moment I'm saying goodbye and that's it, and not just I'm not sure how to say it, but yes, that would be really hard.
Addie, any thoughts?
It was good. A few weeks ago we went to America for a visit, and when we were saying goodbye to our grandparents and cousins, it was we're gonna see them next July. So instead of just being oh, we don't know when we're gonna see you, and being sad about that, we'd be see you in July. So that was good to know when we're gonna see them again.
Or I think also another thing, when you actually say goodbye, don't actually say goodbye, but say see you soon, or I'll see you again. This is not just goodbye. It is I'll see you again soon.
Do you have any ideas for if it really is a final goodbye? Because you can't always say,
that's true,
I will see you again soon.
And I think that's happened before, and that I know it happened to y'all, and it happened to my family when we couldn't get back into China. But I would say it definitely happened to y'all when y'all had to suddenly leave, because there were people that you didn't get to say goodbye to, and you haven't seen them since, and you don't know if you will see them again. But that's why I like today's day and age, where there is messaging apps and there is social apps and websites where you can talk to people and you could see how their lives are going, and that is something that makes goodbyes easier nowadays than back then, where when you would say goodbye, it was goodbye, but now you can actually stay in contact with them. What is the hardest thing about a goodbye as a TCK, Addie?
Sometimes it can just be not knowing when you're gonna see them again, and if this is your final goodbye or not. That can make it hard.
Any thoughts, Elizabeth?
Something that your mom, Noah, says a lot is you love hard, you grieve hard. So the more you love someone, the more you're going to grieve their loss, not being able to spend time with them, live with them, make memories with them. So it's not a bad thing to love hard, but the more you love, the harder it will be.
And I think that's especially prevalent as a TCK because, and I think that's one of the hardest things, especially for me, is that since TCKs, and this can apply to like military families as well as pastors' kids who move around a lot and like move from place to place a lot, is that you make friends and you make good friends. And since TCKs get TCKs so well, you make such good friends and you bond with them, and then you have to say goodbye, and then it builds up a wall inside you, and it's like, I don't really want to make friends anymore because I have to say goodbye again. And that I feel like is a struggle a lot for TCKs, as well as like military kids too. Yeah, any thoughts on that?
I'm not sure if this is related or not, but I remember being in America, and because I knew you love hard, you grieve hard, I almost distanced myself from making friends because I wanted to protect myself from the hurt of having to say goodbye. I knew I was going to move away from America again, and I think that was a mistake on my part because I missed out on friendships. And even if it is hard to say goodbye, it's better to make friends and memories because that's the way that we're meant to be. We're meant to have community. We're meant to have friends.
Yeah. Addie?
Yeah, just what Elizabeth said. Just because you know you're going to have to leave, it doesn't necessarily mean you should distance yourself. It can be really good to make strong friendships, even though you're not going to be able to see them a lot.
Yeah. How do you keep in touch with friends that you haven't been able to see in a while, or that you've had to say goodbye to?
I think just like the technology nowadays, so you can call someone or text someone, is good. Like if you don't have a phone, you could maybe set something up on your parents' phones, which could be good for keeping in contact.
I think it is easier now to say goodbyes, but it's not as hard as it is. Like, saying goodbyes is hard, but it's easier to deal with that now since we are older and we have messaging apps and ways to contact the person that we said goodbye to, compared to when we were younger, when we didn't have those things, and we would, like, the only times we would be able to talk after saying a goodbye was, like, parents setting up a Zoom account or a Skype thing so that we could, like, talk. But, like, I can talk to my friends that I've said goodbye to and can't see on a regular basis or an in-person basis anymore, but I can talk to them over a messaging app.
I still think, though, messaging and screens and calls are never going to take the place of in-person friendships
100%.
because there are memories that are made in person that you just can't make online. And so something that I've struggled with is I've said goodbye to friends and I'm keeping up with them and calling and texting. But at some point, new friendships and people that are in person are going to have to take precedence over the old friendships, and it can be really hard. Even just thinking, I used to call this person every month and now I haven't called him in 5 months. It can be hard.
One thing that I just was reminded of, and something that Addie said, was that when you did say that you didn't tell your grandparents goodbye, you said see you in July. I think that's one thing that is great to have family, like aunts, uncles, and grandparents in America, because you do say goodbye, but you know that you're going to go back to America and you're going to see them again, and you'll have that loving, supporting family that you go back to see, which is one thing I love about, like, my family in the States, my extended family. They're so great and awesome, and it is a place that it is people in a place I can go to back in the States where I don't really have to say goodbye forever. I don't have to I only have to say goodbye for a small amount of time because I will see them again. And that doesn't apply to a lot of people, but it applies to my family, and that's one thing I really, really care about.
I think it's like cousins can be really good friends because every time you go back to America or wherever you're from, then you know you're absolutely going to try to see them. Whereas other friends, you're not going to try to see them as much because they're not family.
One thing I want to talk about is saying goodbye not only to people but to places that you love and to things, because as a TCK, as someone who moves a lot, you're going to have to leave stuff behind. Like, you can't always move the things. One thing that's helped me is taking pictures, because there's a lot more space on my phone or on my computer than there is in my suitcase. And so you can set up that thing, that book. I'm not sure if you have a stuffed animal, any of those things, you can set it up and take a picture, and then you still can look at those pictures and be reminded of the memories you had with it, but not necessarily the space that the object takes up. And of course, there are some things that a picture is never going to completely capture, but that has helped me. And even taking pictures with friends. Like, this is my last time I'm going to see them. I'm going to take a picture with them and have this to remind me of all the memories that we've had.
Yeah. Should you try to put down roots if you know you're going to leave soon?
I think absolutely yes, because you can make really good connections with people and be really good friends with them. And yes, it's hard, but you're going to have those memories with you for as long as you live.
For example, there was a family that joined our youth group, and they started at the beginning. They knew that they were only going to be there for 3 months, but they still totally joined and threw themselves into all of our activities and made really, really close friends. Whereas if they had kind of pulled back and said, oh, we're not going to do this because we're not going to be here for 3 months, I think not as good friendships would have been made. And those friendships are still really good and close and are kept up with even now.
Because even if they just only stayed 3 months, it felt like a while, and it felt like they made really good friends and they made roots. And I think that's good, because you will have those friendships. I think they will have those friendships for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And if they didn't put their roots into Georgia, they wouldn't have made those friendships.
Yeah.
Also, if you have siblings, that's also a really good way to make friends. Like, co-host Elizabeth is my older sister.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this episode of Jet Lag Podcast. Don't forget to send us any comments or questions you'd like for us to discuss on the podcast at jetlagpodcats@gmail.com. Again, that is jetlagpodcats. Cats like the animal that you have as a pet at gmail.com. We hope to see you again next time. Bye.